Greetings, ladies and gentlefish, and welcome to this subscriber replay, in which we have Tanker 3069 driving the Tier 7 Soviet heavy tank, the IS, short for Joseph Stalin, named after the famous Soviet wartime leader. I say wartime. You could classify anything Stalin did was kind of war-y. Anyway, this is one of the more common tanks in the game. I mean, a lot of people jump onto the Soviet heavy lines as their first line. A lot of people, when they ask what tanks to play first, are recommended to jump onto the Soviet heavies. Usually the line leading up to the IS-7 on which this falls. So this is a pretty common machine to see, which I think's a good reason to show a nice little bit of gameplay from it. Tanker has 2 marks of excellence on his gun barrel, as you can see there. So he's clearly no slouch in the shooting things in the face department in this machine. And so we can see what he can do. Now, there's a Comet over here to his left, M5 Stuart over to the right. The Stuart isn't really a threat at the moment, the Comet is far more of a threat. And yes, there is a medium one in this game, platooned up with some nincompoop, but whatever, we'll just run with it. Tanker is... oh, good lord, there's a KV-85 as well. So Tanker just prioritised, quite rightly, getting out of dodge rather than taking pain. Over trying to aim his shot a lot. SU gets out of his way there, which is nice. Which is entirely the right thing to do. And here he just seeing if the ice was going to poke out enough for him to take a shot. Alas, no. Puts a shot into the KV-85 and sets the guy on fire. This is the sort of gameplay you often find with these kind of big, derpy Russian guns. You don't bother to properly aim the shot. You just roll out from behind a corner at point-blank range and dirt one straight into his face. And that Comet appears to be firing high explosive. 77mm high explosive versus the IS. Not really going to work out so well. Tanker does take a shot there while he finishes off the KV-85, but he removed a gun from the game. I would say that trade was definitely worth it. So he has killed the entirety of that KV-85 and given the Comet a serious case of the jeepers. Now, you could argue that maybe the Comet had loaded high explosive for a different target, but let's be honest here, there was no one else around to shoot. Now, I will admit at that point, I think Tanker could perhaps have done a little bit more to angle his armour as he came around that corner to try to not take damage, but I appreciate, and again here, but I appreciate that he's probably a little bit concerned about the fellows, the IS and the VK over there, currently to his front. And so if he spends too much time faffing around and angling his armour to deflect a shot from the Comet, he increases the chances that the IS or the VK is going to put a shot into him. So I can understand the reluctance to spend too much time faffing around with his armour, but I think he could have done a little bit to angle his armour there. Comes around the side, you can see here the IS is a pretty mobile machine and puts a shot into the VKP, managing to bounce shots from the VK and the IS in the process. And if we have a look, the IS is not actually using the big gun. In fact, it looks like he's using the 85mm gun, which is not a particularly great weapon, so his threat level is not that high. If he was using at least the 100mm, you'd have to pay him a lot more respect. Interestingly, Tanker's ammo loadout has 5 HE rounds, no APCR, and the rest armor piercing. And that's not a terrible choice, to be fair. I mean, I carry a few rounds of APCR on my IS, but I can't remember if I've ever actually used them. And the high explosive rounds on these large caliber guns are pretty effective. So the team finishes off the AMX M445. And Tanker's just going to push on. There is an enemy heavy tank. Don't know if it's the KV-1 or the T-150. Oh, in fact, I was going to say there is an enemy heavy tank near the friendly base, but it's not too much of an issue. But no, I lie. The remainder of the enemy team is over by the friendly base. So this is actually an issue. Now, of all the remaining tanks, if Tanker angles his armour properly and keeps himself moving, the KV-1 shouldn't pose a massive threat. The T-150, if he's got the top gun, the 107mm gun, could be a problem. So he does need to pay that guy respect. Well, the KV-1's dead anyway, so the KV-1 is definitely not a threat. And the SU-152 can be a threat regardless of what gun he's using, whether it's the 152mm derp gun or the 122mm gun, which is basically an upgraded version of the gun that Tank is using on this tank. And once he's gotten past the fact that there was an inconveniently placed stealth rock there, he can hopefully go hunting these guys. SU-152 is a one-shot for him now. The T-150 would require 2 shots, but the entire team's descending on these 2 guys, and I really don't think they're going to last very long. It looks like the Cromwell's got the SU's number. Indeed he has. And it looks like the T-150 doesn't actually have the top gun, because the Cromwell just took 100 and something damage. And there's no way that would have been from the SU-152. So, it appears that Tanker's team were a little fortunate here, in that a couple of the enemy tanks were not fully upgraded. Tanker doesn't manage to get any more damage in, but that was the game. There was a nice little fight over on that corner. Tanker definitely contributed to the outcome of this game in a very positive manner, and I think overall it was a very nicely played game. As I say, if I was going to make any criticism, it would be that I think Tanker could have spent a little bit more time angling his armour against the Comet in particular, but it wasn't a massive issue. And I don't think it's a big thing to pick up on. And as I say, I can perhaps understand his reluctance to spend too much time faffing around with that, considering the other opposition that was there. So, a nicely played game there, in a tank that is reasonably common on the battlefield and is generally fairly effective. So, take a look at the end plates. I hope you guys enjoyed that game. If you did, please feel free to catch some of my other videos, and or subscribe to my channel. And I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao, ciao.